Hello, everybody. Welcome to BreatheCon 2024. I'm so happy that you all are here, and it is day one of BreatheCon. My name is Leah. I am 30 years old, as evidenced by this big 30 balloon here, and I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at 1 year old. I currently work in higher education at a college in Boston, and I am the Massachusetts State Director for a national women's self-defense organization. On behalf of the BreatheCon Planning Committee, our speakers, facilitators, session advisors, I want to welcome you and thank you all for being here for our 8th annual virtual conference for adults with CF. BreatheCon is so important to us because it allows adults with CF to connect, learn with each other, share experiences in a virtual and safe environment. The theme for this year's BreatheCon is Your CF Journey. In keeping with that theme, I'd like to take a minute now to share a little about my CF journey. My CF journey began at 1 year old. My mom tells the story of the day I was diagnosed, as when we were leaving the hospital, I, as a mere 1 year old, pulled on her pearl necklace while she was carrying me out of the hospital, and the necklace broke, and pearls went all over the ground. She says now that that was symbolic for how she felt in that moment. Her whole world had come undone, just like that necklace. When a baby is born, everyone says they just want that baby to be healthy. And she had just heard I was not. Boy, I bet 29 years ago, my parents did not expect I would go on to start and run my own Great Strides walk team for more than a decade, do my own fundraising, go on to do many public speaking engagements for cystic fibrosis awareness, including speaking engagements at Harvard Medical School, medical technology companies, speaking to doctors and lab scientists working towards finding a cure, speaking at large fundraising events in front of groups of more than 500 people, winning chapter awards, and here today, chairing a national conference for adults with cystic fibrosis. I am absolutely honored to be your BreatheCon 2024 chairwoman. BreatheCon has held a special place in my heart since its first year. I have learned so much as a result of being part of this event year after year. I have met some amazing fighters across the country and the world as a result of attending these events. I have met some of my best friends through BreatheCon, people I have never and may never meet in person, but we share a special kind of unbreakable bond that I know many of you are familiar with. These spaces hold the power of connection and the power to combat an incredibly isolating disease that can leave a lot of us feeling pretty lonely. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who is here tonight and tomorrow for BreatheCon 2024. It truly means the world to me. The planning committee and I have worked incredibly hard over many weeks and months to create an event we hope you will find fun, informative, and engaging. I would like to take a minute right now to shout out this year's planning committee who were essential in making this event a success. In no particular order, thank you, Skylar, Tasha, Kayla, Brandon, Drew, Nicole, Stephanie, Ashley, Eric, Tanisha, Jenny, Karen, Anna, and Faith. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all for your great work, your time commitment, and your dedication to the creation of this event. You are rock stars. BreatheCon is a space for you to share experiences, foster connections, and find others who are navigating similar paths. Creating a space where the CF community can come together to inspire and uplift one another. At BreatheCon 2024, let's celebrate all of our unique CF journeys. With an array of speakers, panels, affinity groups, small group discussions, activities, over the next 2 days, we hope you are able to build new connections and friendships with other adults who understand life with CF. First up is our opening keynote. This year, we are so excited to welcome Raeshaun Jones. Raeshaun has done multiple things with the CF community, as well as facilitates a support group for African American adults with CF. Raeshaun uses her platform, Spiritually Breathing LLC, to spread awareness to the CF community. Raeshaun graduated from VCU with her bachelor's in psychology and works in the mental health field while pursuing her master's in clinical mental health counseling. So please stay right here and give it up for Raeshaun Jones.
Hi, Leah. Thanks so much for that. And I don't know if it's your birthday today or recent, but I'll be 30 in March. So happy birthday. But thank you to the CF Foundation for this opportunity. I'm super excited to be here, and happy Friday. It's Friday night, so I'm going to try not to keep you guys here too long, but I'm excited to be able to just come and talk a little bit about CF and mental health, which is something, like Leah said, that I hold near and dear to me. It's something that I do on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I'll jump right into it. So some of you may know me, some of you may not. My name is Raeshaun Jones. I'm 29 years old and I live in Richmond, Virginia. And like Leah said, I'm in the mental health field. So I did get my bachelor's in psychology from VCU, and now I'm studying for my master's in clinical mental health counseling. So it's something that like I said, I hold near and dear to me, and I really do cherish. And I do crisis work as well as I work with intensive in-home and mental health skill building. So it's pretty much just community-based work. So I'm dealing with a lot of, I don't want to call it heavy hitters, but some real mental health challenges on a day-to-day basis. So this is something that I'm honored to be able to come and discuss with you guys a little bit. So I obviously have cystic fibrosis. I was diagnosed at 3 months old, and I have type 1 diabetes, and I was diagnosed at about 9 years old. So I've been on this CF journey, on this diabetic journey for some time now. And as I've grown and I've become more into my career, I have took a deep dive into learning about mental health and how all of those tie in on a day-to-day basis. So like I said, I'm in the mental health field. Some may know, some may not know, but that was not my initial plan. Initially, I planned to be a registered nurse. And I know some of y'all in the chat, maybe you can drop some purple hearts. We have spent a lot of time in the hospital. So I felt like, I could do this. I could be a nurse. This is going to be my thing. But as time progressed, I decided that's not something that I desired. And really, because of the credits, I switched over to psychology, and then I began to just really love it. I began to love to learn about why people do what they do, why their mind works the way that they work. So here we are today. So I started my brand, Spiritually Breathing LLC, a few years back, and the initial goal of starting it was to be able to spread awareness for people of color who have CF, which we have made some great strides toward that. So that's definitely a blessing. But as I began to continue to grow, I realized mental health is something that needs to be talked about as well, right? So I started my support group, One Breath at a Time. We meet on a weekly basis and we talk about things that are happening in real life, right? So we're turning on TikTok, we're getting on social media, on the news, and we're seeing that it's a lot of stuff going on. So not only do we have our health challenges that we're facing on a day-to-day basis, but we have our mental health challenges that we're facing as well. So that's something that I have grown and I really love talking about. And I love when we can get on this group and all just share our stories in a safe space. So during this time today, I will be going over 3 things with you guys and kind of going in depth and giving a little bit about my experience. So the first thing that I'm going to talk to you guys about is understanding mental health and CF. The second thing will be common challenges that we face within the CF community. And then lastly, I'll give you all just some strategies that I use to try to balance my mental health and my physical health. So if any of you all have been in college or studied anything, you know that what the kids call it nowadays, you need some receipts for those papers that you're turning in, for those assignments. So I went ahead and I did look up, some articles that could kind of back up what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today. So the RTI Health Events did an article in 2022 stating that 50.6% of people with mental health disorders had a medical condition. Why am I saying this? What does this mean? This means that mental and physical health, they're on the same playing field. Neither is more important than the other. You really can't have one without the other, right? If you're having any type of physical illness, you may experience some anxiety, some depression, and things of that sort. So that's the first thing I want to point out, that these are two things that are very, very important that we need to pay attention to. And then also I found something from the National Library of Medicine, and they said that mental illness may have a direct or indirect impact on physical health. So going back to what I just said, right? Mental and physical health is something that they both align and they both can play a role into one another. So something that I found for myself is trying to learn balance, right? So growing up, mental health was just not talked about. And I didn't really start paying attention to things that I was feeling, like depression from spending so much time in and out of the hospital, missing out on engagements, anxiety from having to tell the people that I loved, hey, I'm not going to be able to be at your birthday celebration. I'm not going to be able to attend your graduation because I'm having a flare up. So I had to learn how to balance the two. I had to learn which part is being impacted right now, right? So if you're having a flare up, you're not going to go call your therapist. You're probably going to call your doctor, your PCP, your CF care doctor, your team, and say, hey, I need an appointment. I need some type of antibiotic. So it's learning which one is being impacted at the moment, and that will help you to figure out how you need to move to better care for yourself. And then going into care for yourself, some ways that you are able to care for yourself. So I'll give you guys a story. I say about 3 weeks ago, I'm in the mental health field, so I have a full caseload of clients that have a lot going on. So I worked all day. I'm in grad school. I had class. I attended class. Y'all, I had this big idea that when I got home, I was going to cook dinner. I was going to eat the dinner. I was going to do homework, and I was going to go to the gym. So I'm really pushing myself. I'm like, Raeshaun, you need to get up. You need to get this done. But I was not able to do that because I was so mentally and physically exhausted that day. So something that I've learned over time is, okay, if you're tired, if you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, whatever the thoughts may be, we're going to take today and we're going to get some rest. And it may not be the whole day, but that night I could have easily just tried to do everything and just be so overwhelmed, but I didn't. I gave myself the time to have a break, but I promised myself the next day when I woke up that I was going to go ahead and get up and get things done. So that's something that I would suggest. The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is some challenges. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of y'all that are watching that will probably be able to agree with some of these challenges that we face in the CF family. But the first thing that I think for me is I felt very afraid to ask for help. So I was raised by a strong Black woman who instilled in me that the world doesn't stop because you're not feeling well or because you don't feel like it, right? So for a long time, I would push myself and push myself. I remember when I first started therapy, of course, growing up with two chronic illnesses, I had some things that I never talked about, that I never spoke about, that I never addressed. So as I became old enough, I said, you know what? It's time for me to get into therapy. But I was so afraid to tell anyone in my family. I was afraid to tell any friends because in the Black community, therapy is not something that is talked about. And if anything, it's like a last resort. So if you're feeling tired, look, go lay down and we're going to try again later, right? So me getting into therapy was something that I knew that was really, really important. But I was just so nervous to tell people about it because I was afraid of what people would say. I didn't want people to say, oh, she's crazy, or just think that it was just something so major going on when it really was just that I needed to talk about some things. Um, the next thing that I would say that we deal with that is challenging is just a lack of education. A lot of people are not aware that of the statistics that I share with you guys that 50.6% of people who have mental health have some type of physical health issue and vice versa. So I think that there's just a lack of education. And I think it also falls into just feeling ashamed, feeling alone, having a chronic illness. Of course, we have our parents, friends who may say, hey, I'm here for you if you need anything. But for us, it's like you don't really understand what it is because you're not going through it. So I think that not being educated, that it is okay to feel all of these feelings. And we have grown to a space where there are so many advancements. Anytime you get on TikTok, I'm pretty sure you guys see a long list of videos where people are talking about their depression, their anxiety, their ADHD, and many other things that are being discussed. So luckily, we've advanced to a space where people are talking about this across the nation. So it's not as scarce as it used to be, but there's still some ways that you can educate yourself on this type of thing. Y'all, the next thing that I have, I came up with it myself. So don't think I stole this from anyone. But as I was preparing, I was thinking about how prideful we can be with our illnesses. So I like to call this the prideful chronic illness effect. And to me, this just means not accepting help and not asking for help. So I know for myself, I have a great support system, but it took me a very, very long time to get to a space to say, you know what, I'm going to ask for help. If someone called me and said, hey, Raeshaun, how are you feeling today? It was second nature for me to just say, I'm doing good, I'm okay. And I really was not doing okay. So it took me some time to learn it's okay to ask for help. And it could be something very small. It could be, I have a load of laundry in there that I really need help folding so that I can catch up on some rest. So little things like that, putting our pride to the side, not negating all of the things that we have been through. How many of you all have been in the hospital and pressed that call bell and the nurse took forever to come? Not saying they didn't want to, but maybe they just had a lot of other things that they were doing. Things like that have kind of programmed us to say, you know what, don't worry about it, I got it. But I think it's time for us to get to a point of stepping outside of that and knowing it's okay to say, hey, I need some help, I could use some assistance. And I also just want to talk about the challenge of having those difficult conversations with people that are close to us, whether it's a family, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coworker, like I just stated. Instead of constantly going through this mindset of, I'm just going to say that everything is okay. I'm just going to say that everything is all right, even though you're not. It's important to have those difficult conversations. If you're not okay, telling them, I'm not okay, and this is why. And I think, as we grow older, there may be some adolescents that are on here, but as adults, as we grow older, you know what you need. You know if you need rest, you know if you need to take more treatments, you know if you need a therapy session. So I think it's just important to get more comfortable with communicating with you what you need and knowing that it's okay to ask for some help. So now I want to go into some strategies. And these are things that work for me as I've been along this journey. I remember growing up, being a little girl. You guys probably remember before we got the vest machine, it was hand PT, and just how much time I had to put into taking treatments, especially pre-Trikafta, taking treatments, making time for my chest PT. They always want us to do a little bit of physical therapy, things of that sort. So for a long time, I really didn't have strategies. I was just going with the flow of what the doctor said, which was take your treatments, take your enzymes, make sure you're eating, all of those things that we all probably dealt with. Whereas now, as I've gotten older, as I've become an adult, as I focused more on my mental health, I've had to learn coping skills and strategies to help me so that I'm not burnt out because I want to live a normal life while having CF. So the first thing that is super, super big for me is prayer. I don't know what your life is like in terms of maybe spiritual, or maybe you're just, maybe you don't pray, or whatever the case, positive affirmations, but something that you can do to fill yourself up, to pour back into yourself. Prayer is the top of my list. The next thing is exercise. You guys, I'm a gym girly now. I love the gym. I'm always 3 times a week. I make it my business to go to the gym. Like I said, pre-trifecta, I was not able to work out, right? It just wasn't a thing. I always wanted to, but my body physically would not allow me to work out. So exercising is something that I really love to partake in at least 3 times a week. And when I'm at the gym, I have my headphones in, I'm locked in. It's not social hour for me. It's really just, look, I don't have my clients. I don't have any homework. This is just time where I can lock in and really focus on my mental. Journaling, that's something that I really do on a regular basis. And I know some people don't like to journal. It took me time to get into journaling, but what I've noticed is first thing in the morning when I wake up, that's when I'm thinking about everything that happened yesterday, what I have to do today. So journaling first thing in the morning when I wake up, it just allows me to get all of those thoughts out of my brain and put them on paper and release it. Now, this is something for the iPhone users. I'm sorry to the Android users in the chat. I don't know if you got it's okay. They may have something for you guys. But for the iPhone users, that do not disturb feature has become my best friend in this season of life. Sometimes I think it's very important to just be able to lock out the outside noise and just have that time where you can just relax and focus in on yourself. And the last thing that y'all are going to hear me rave about is therapy. I think that therapy is something that's really important. Like I said earlier, it's not talked about, well, wasn't talked about as much in the Black community, whereas now it's talked about a lot more. And I love that for us. But therapy is nice because it allows you to be able to talk to someone who does not know you from a can of paint, right? And you can just tell them what you have going on, and you don't have to worry about them coming back later, throwing it in your face, or judging. You just get to release, and you get to get that support from someone who doesn't know you. Of course, you'll build that rapport over time, but therapy is something that I highly suggest. Next, I'm going to go into support. Having support is major for your physical and your mental health. You can have a group at the gym that you go work out with. For me, starting One Breath at a Time, the support group that I started, has been such a blessing to my life because it's literally a bunch of people of color, not a bunch, more like 6 or 7 of us. But we meet on a regular basis and we just talk about a lot of stuff. It could be your spouse, it could be your children, your job, it could be funny things that's happening, it could be sad things, but it just allows us to all connect. And I think we all benefit from it because, like I said, for so long with CFers, we're not able to be in the same space. So being able to have that time where we can all just come together, be in the same room and say, hey, like, I love it here. We have the support and you get what I'm going through. So that is a good thing. Church is something else that I would suggest if that is your thing. There are a lot of groups at church that you could join and get that fellowship and get that sense of family. And I would also say a hobby, whether it's going to play basketball, football, swimming, bowling, I don't know, but finding a hobby is a good strategy for you during this time of trying to grow with your mental and your physical health. So, I'm going to give you 5 things that I want to leave y'all with as we're wrapping up. So, the first thing that I would say is just the importance of knowing your body. I spoke about it a little bit earlier, but if you're having a toothache, you're not going to go write in your journal, right? So, you want to know what part of your body is being impacted at what moment. And then that allows you to be able to move in a way that's more healthy for you. Just like if you're having a mental health breakdown, you may want to call your therapist, you may want to journal, you may want to go out for a walk. So I think it's important to know what part of my body is being impacted at this moment. The next thing I would say, like I said earlier, having a support system is someone that you can lean on. I think a lot of people think support has to be so big. And it really doesn't. It could be one or two friends. It could be a parent. It could be just someone, your neighbor, that you have learned that you can rely on and that can be there for you. So having a support system. I said this already, but I'm going to say it again. Therapy. Therapy is so important. And I know being that mental health is really being talked about, which is amazing. You may call someone and you may say, I want to get therapy, and you may have to be on a wait list for like 3 months to 6 months. That is okay. Just get on that list so that you can get yourself a therapist and start that journey with them. The next thing I'm going to say is something that can give you a mental escape. For me, it's the gym. It's also traveling. I love traveling. I love going on vacation. That's really my love language. But for you, it may be drawing, art. It may be dance. It may be spending some time outside. But just figuring something out that you can do that can allow you to have a mental escape on a regular basis is something that you really want to do. And then the last thing I would say, incorporating some type of fun into your life. I think the world has got very serious, right? You get on the internet, you watch the news, and everything is so serious. So finding something fun that you can do, traveling, hanging out with friends, watching a YouTube video, scrolling on TikTok. I love to get on TikTok and laugh. That's my favorite thing to do. But finding something that you can do that will allow you to just have some fun and not be so serious all the time in the midst of obviously making time for your physical and your mental health. So that is all I have today. Thank you all so much for your time. Leah's going to come back on. We're going to open up the floor for some questions, and feel free to go ahead in the chat if you haven't. If you have anything, to go ahead and ask some questions.
Yes, thank you, Raeshaun. That was awesome. I have so many things I want to say and ask you about, but I'm going to turn it over to our audience Q&A. And all right, so first question for you, Raeshaun. For those who are listening, what advice would you give for fostering resilience and finding strength in the face of both physical and mental challenges associated with CF?
Well, I think having CF, you're already resilient and you're already strong because you're still here, right? So I think it would be, the first thing would just be acknowledging that you're already strong and fearless and resilient. And I will also say, for me, positive affirmations is big. So just telling yourself that I am strong, I am smart, I'm beautiful, I'm capable, things of that sort to practice in your day-to-day, I think will be good with helping with that.
I love that. I want to like just snapshot that and play your voice every morning of those self-affirmations. That's awesome. Okay, next question. How did you become comfortable talking about mental illness, as that is not something that is typically openly discussed in the Black community?
That is a good question. Well, so I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm pretty like straightforward and just like I said what I said. So it really took me some time to get here because, like I said, when I was speaking, it just wasn't, mental health was not talked about in my household or in my family. And even the idea of going to therapy was like, are you okay? What's going on? It has to be something much bigger. But I think just knowing that, honestly, if I'm dealing with it, somebody else has to be dealing with it. And if they're not dealing with it, it's okay. But I think that just gave me a little bit more comfort in speaking on it. And then I also think once I went to college and got my degree and saw how many people were experiencing mental health challenges all over in the Black community as well, it just made me comfortable talking about it. Like I feel like it's just a normal thing now. Like a lot of people deal with mental health on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so true. And part of that making it more regular and mainstream, right, is like having people like you here, open, talking about it in a keynote, being like, hey, you're dealing with it. We've all dealt with it, right? And so making it more mainstream is so important. Okay, next question. Has there been any research on how COVID has progressed the mental conversation in mainstream?
So I don't know if there has been research. I'm sure that there has been. But I know just from having conversations with classmates and things like that, COVID has definitely impacted a lot of people's mental health. And I think that's kind of what made it kind of boom as far as people just talking about it and being more open about it. it's because, you know, we were in the house for all that time and couldn't get out and do things that were either it served as a coping skill or maybe it distracted us from how we really were feeling. So I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of research that has been done on it. But like I said, I know from conversations that it's definitely something that has been impacted, and I think made a lot of people just start talking about it, especially being on Zoom. And I think it allowed people to be more comfortable not being in person talking about it and kind of being on the other side of the screen. It
Right.
feels a little bit more comfortable to do that.
Right. So true. I know even when COVID all first happened, a lot of people, I was one of them, but people with CF were like, come talk to me. I connect with people online all the time.
Or yeah.
All right. Was there any particular resource that sparked your mental health journey?
You know what? I don't think so. Like I said, you know, I started off wanting to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And then I started psychology, the psychology career, and then I really enjoyed it. Like I was like, wow, that's why people think like that, and that's why they do what they do. So I don't think it was a specific resource, but now even being in grad school, we're taking such a deep dive, learning about all of the breakdowns of like bipolar disorder and things like that. So it's just, I think it's something that challenges me to continue learning. And then I also think when I take the book knowledge and apply it to real life, it kind of hits a little bit harder. So I don't think it's just one thing in particular. I think it just, I kind of fell into it and now I enjoy it. Yeah.
All right. How would you suggest handling medical professionals making comments about mental health being stigmatized?
I think you should give them some journal some articles so they can read up on it. Wow, I can't believe people are really doing that. It's 2024. People are doing that, but um, honestly, I think it's good to just educate people who may need to be educated. Like just because you're a doctor, you still have room to grow. So, and also, you know, this is what we talk about, like cultural competency too. Like knowing that
Mhm.
each patient is different and what one person may really be able to push through and deal with, the next person may not be able to. So just maybe having an honest conversation and saying, hey, I know you have a lot of patients, but for me, this is what I'm dealing with. And I would
Yeah,
really appreciate if you could give me some resources, connect me with the social worker or someone that can help. But I think it's better to educate than to maybe get angry and not speak at all. So
I
yeah,
love
just
that.
educate them on who you are and maybe they can learn from it.
I love that. I think that is so in line with this year's theme too, right? Like your CF journey. Like
Yeah,
I was saying before, I'm like, we all here are adults with CF, right? But
yeah,
really, that could be where our connections end, right? Because my
right.
CF journey is not just because when you have CF, it's not you follow all these steps and everyone like it's all different. And
It's
so,
different. Yeah.
yeah, that's right in line. Um, okay, great question here. How might you approach getting started with therapy if you're not sure of your therapy needs and goals?
So, Psychology Today is a good resource because you can go to that website and you can type in your zip code and you can kind of read their bios and see what you're looking for. So, that's a good way to get started. And then, once, like I talked about, the wait list for therapy is kind of long these days. So, you may have to wait a little bit. But once you get started, they'll do an initial like session with you to kind of get to know you and you get to know them. So maybe having a list beforehand of what you need, like someone who specializes in ADHD and grief or just whatever the case may be. And then they can let you know if that's something they offer. And I like to say having a therapist, it's just like any other relationship, you have to build that rapport. So you don't want to just throw in a towel on the first or second session. Maybe give it about 4 sessions and see if y'all grow on each other. But yeah, Psychology Today, they have really good bios that you can kind of read and see what they specialize in, and you can see a picture of them. I don't know, maybe that'll help you. I don't know, but yeah, and just having a list for your first initial session so that you're clear as to what you want and they can be clear as to what they can offer.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. And I feel like those pictures, right? Like that's how people date now, right? Aren't we like swiping left and
on
right
Hinge, that's what I said. Yep.
based on pictures?
Yeah, they should make an app for that. That'll be a good idea.
See?
Don't
Spiritually
steal my
dating
idea, Leah.
LLC. Let's make it happen. All right, you kind of just touched on this, but I'll ask the question in case you want to add anything.
Okay.
Any tips on how to find a mental health therapist or counselor that is a good match?
A good match. I will be honest with you, a lot of stuff is word of mouth. So like the therapist that I had she was recommended by a colleague. So it worked out and I was in therapy for a while, but then I was like, okay, I think I'm good now. I can take a little break. But I would say word of mouth, like I said, reading that bio is really, really, it's just like what we talked about, like on the dating apps, right? Like you think what you see you may like, and then you may go on a first date and you may not like it. So it's really trial and error, and you may just have to try it out. But you could get with them the first time for your session, you could love them. So it just depends, I guess.
You all heard it here first. We're going to create a therapist, not a therapist dating app, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. As a person who went through serious and long-lasting mental health issues as a part of the fallout from long-term steroid exposure and subsequent discontinuation, and withdrawal, are you aware of any resources specific to mental health and steroid use?
I'm not. And I'm trying to think of what the resource that the CF Foundation offers. It's I can't think of the name, but it's like it's like Compass or something, right?
Yeah.
They may have a list. They may have something like if you call Compass, they may have some, but I don't have any, and I know that's very specific too. So yeah, I don't have any resources. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That was we're right at time. So thank you, Raeshaun, for being here, for being our keynote. You are phenomenal. And I do follow your Instagram and I'm like, she's a gym girly, okay?
I am.
Like
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you everyone for being here. We're gonna take a quick 10-minute break. Come back at 8:10 Eastern or whatever time that is for wherever you are. And for our panel discussions and other sessions coming up. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.